That was the biggest difference. And the guys did an unbelievable job against a front that had been pretty successful against the run.
Just realized I'm wearing a red sweatshirt. It's Cardinals, not Fresno State, just so you can see here.
Come on, man. I wasn't going to ask you. I didn't think you do that to us.
Well, speaking of Lee Marks, that was kind of my next question. They got four coaches over there that you had ties with or coach here, and then they got Tyson Maeva as well. What's just the kind of unique, I guess, that four Broncos ended up over on the Fresno State staff? What's your thoughts on just having some connections over there?
Yeah, those guys are awesome. I mean, those guys, there's a few guys that, some of us here have played with here and coached with, and then some guys that we have coached. And so it's, there's in this profession, a lot of guys from Boise State have got into it. So you run into guys, throughout the season that maybe you played with, coached with on various teams. And so they've obviously done a tremendous job. They're great men and great coaches.
Hey, Coach, how's it going this morning?
What's up, Ron?
So you played in that pretty famous win over Fresno State in 2001. We talked a few weeks ago about the impact that game had, but what do you remember of the game itself?
Well, for me, it was one of the first road trips, as a younger player that I got to take and be a part of and be on. And I know that it was a team effort in a lot of different phases, whether it be, the big plays that a few of the wide receivers on our offense made and a few big plays defensively that certain guys made. I mean, I remember an outside linebacker making a tremendous play down near in the red zone to bat the ball down on a critical situation play. And I know that there are 2 or 3 plays on each side of the ball that change the game. And that's what it comes down to in games like this. And that's on special teams as well. And that'll be no different this time, is that, there's going to be critical plays, again, 2 or 3 on each side of the ball that it's going to come down to. In their game last week against San Diego State, early on in the game, there was 2 or 3 plays that changed that game pretty quickly for Fresno State, they were on the attack, both on offense and defense.
And we also saw today that Will Farah is no longer on the depth chart. What can you tell us about his health moving forward?
Yeah, so as always, we're not going to comment until the game, but he is not – it's not a season-injuring deal.
Thank you.
We hope to have him back this week, though.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach, as you guys look at your overall big picture, you see the win-loss trend. How much do you put into that, the inconsistency factor? Is that frustrating? Is that something you're trying to fix? Or how do you process that?
It's something that we've definitely discussed in being more consistent and being able to, establish the fact that this is a new week starting today. And every single day is an important day in how we move forward. And we're not, as a program here, we've discussed certain things in all areas that we need to improve upon. And obviously that's one of them.
It seems like, from my perspective, and I don't know if desperate is the right word, but it seems like you guys play better when it's desperate, when your backs are against the wall. Every team takes on its own characteristics. Do you see any of that in this football team?
We've played better on the road, for whatever reason that may be. We definitely played better on the road. We want to make sure of this, that, each and every day we put our best foot together, put our best foot forward, regardless, Mike, of circumstances we create. And that's the biggest thing that the perspective we have to have is we're not waiting around to see what happens. We are going to create. And that's what we've done in the last 2 weeks, and creating some growth in certain areas that we needed to, and being able to do that on the field day in and day out. And, this is a new week. The last 2 weeks were the last 2 weeks. How we move forward, starting today in our first practice of the week, is a big deal. We learn from the past and we move forward and apply it to the future.
Thank you, Andy.
Go John, Will, and then Paul J.
Coach, what was the strategy with George Helani? Maybe there's still the pitch count there, 19 carries for Cyrus and 10 for Helani. And both were effective. Just wanting to know when and if we're going to see maybe that game where Helani is just unleashed.
Yeah. So obviously coming off an injury, in fairness to the player, you can't throw him back in there and let him, play 100% of what he would normally do, what he would normally get. And so we would hope that, that pitch count goes away here, but only this week will determine that, and the trainers and our physicians as to what he can handle. But we're pretty confident that he is, he's going to be back to full speed.
What is the value of Jake Stetz on this football team right now? It seemed like if there was like a team MVP race, I think he would be in the hunt.
No, I'm with you, John. Like his absence earlier, in the year when he was out was a big deal for the offensive line. He's done a tremendous job, and even more so for him to jump in there and play some center and operate the way he did and bring a certain mentality too, right? The guy in the middle of the line of scrimmage there, that's a big deal. Not only did he do a tremendous job with the operation and the communication, but he also played very well, and so he's been a huge part of this. He is in the leadership group. He is a leader of the team, not just on offense. He obviously is a leader of that offensive line, and we look forward to, him continuing to have a really good season.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Andy, you look at Jake Haener. What stands out to you about him?
A whole lot. I mean, this guy, he is extremely efficient. His accuracy, his arm strength, the platforms he can throw from. He's got some very talented wide receivers and tight ends to go along with it. But he's got a quick release and stays on time too within the progressions. And so they've had, as we all know, a lot of success in the pass game and in the run game. They're well balanced, but his arm strength and accuracy stands out a whole lot.
What do you think of your run defense's performance on Saturday?
Yeah, we made a lot of strides and improvements, especially with the things that we had talked about, with the mentality and the fundamentals at the line of scrimmage. In terms of the running backs and the actual run plays, we did a really good job. We did not do a great job within certain pass plays and being able to pass rush the quarterback and keep our leverage in our rush lanes and contain the pocket. And that's something that obviously we got to improve upon. That's where the majority of the rush yards came last week.
Thanks, Andy.
Andy, get a little historical perspective here. Back in 2001, Fresno State will play anyone, anywhere, at any time. They were ranked number 8. They'd beaten Colorado. They'd beaten Oregon State. They'd beaten Wisconsin. They were 6-0, thought to be invincible. They're ranked again, not as highly recruited, but they've beaten Pac-10 teams. You're now a coach, not a player. How are these two games the same yet different?
Well, two totally different teams, two totally different coaching staffs. They are extremely talented like they were, in 2001. I think at the end of the day, anytime these two teams meet up, it is a battle. It's a physical game, and it is a battle. Both sides got very talented players. It means something. It means a whole lot to both sides. Like we're not gonna shy away from that or underestimate what this game means. And there's a lot of history all the way back to 2001 that is built into this game. And so regardless of whether it's 2001, 11, 13, 17, 18, whatever the year was, there's a lot that goes into this game, a lot of pride, players playing with passion, and there's obviously usually a lot on the line as well.
At the end of that season, Boise State was 8-4, but did not get selected to go to a bowl game. Do you have any worries something like that could happen this year?
No.
None. What do they do defensively that bothers you?
They're very disruptive up front. They've got a lot of TFLs, and they generate a lot of sacks. They do a great job with their front. They've been pretty solid against the run game, and typically when you got a pretty good defense, the defensive line is really productive, and that's what they've shown to be. And they've done it, like you said, they've done it against Pac-12 teams in elite competition.
Thanks.
Let's go to Bob and then Jay.
Coach, what about the running game for Fresno State? I mean, this looks to be one of the most complete teams, both offensively and defensively, that we've seen. You touched on Hainer and the receivers, but what about Rivers and Mims and their offensive line running the ball?
Yeah, I mean, both tailbacks are very, very capable. Mims steps in and has some explosive runs. They've done a tremendous job being balanced. And however you want to see it, the run game opens up the pass game opens up the run game. They've done a tremendous job week in and week out. They've got explosive run plays, and both backs can take the distance, if you give them that seam, and they've shown to do that. That was a part of last week's game in the San Diego State game as well. And so the physicality again at the line of scrimmage is going to show up. Being able to handle our gaps versus their zone schemes is going to be a big part of us making sure that there aren't explosive run plays.
Last 2 weeks, both Air Force and Colorado State, they did a lot in the first quarter, and then it seemed, especially defensively, you guys got better as the game went along. What do you think is the reason that you guys have been able to do that, and maybe how do you get it a little earlier so that 3 scores don't happen?
Right, there's no question, and that's coming out of not only the bye week, but even this last game, it's been a focus of, how do we get ourselves started faster, especially on defense, and get ourselves in rhythm. And a lot of times that comes down to us operating, working together in the pre-snap, doing a great job of communicating. Communication gets you in rhythm, and being able to identify certain formations that have indicators of what could be coming based off of personnel, motions, and being able to communicate those things is a huge part of getting yourself in rhythm a lot faster and playing with great eye control.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Andy, how we doing?
What's up, Jay?
Hey, more kind of a life question, I guess, than a football question. But, when you recruit these guys, they come to Boise State, and when you first meet them, they're 16, 17 years old. By the time they leave, they're, 22, 23. Some of them have multiple degrees. Joel Velasquez, proposes to his fiance. Like, what does it mean to you to see those guys go from, those 16, 17-year-old guys to, the ones that ultimately leave? Again, kind of even asking about like Joel, how, he got proposed, or he proposed to his fiance. What does that mean to you to see stuff like that?
Well, I mean, that's ultimately, we all know what we get judged off of, the wins and loss column, but that's why we do what we do, is to be a part of these guys' lives. We're fortunate that, in most situations we get to be a part of the recruiting process and, get to know them and their families pretty well. That's a big deal to us. And, Brandon Hawkins is another example of what you're talking about. He just got engaged, and we recruited Brandon Hawkins out of Austin, Texas, how many ever years ago. And here he is now working on getting his degree, developing into an unbelievable young man. And, he's found his wife, and it's cool to see these young men grow. We spend countless hours behind the scenes helping them, mentoring them, trying to help them build skills that are going to help them be successful, not only in this game, but more importantly in life.
What are your thoughts on proposals on the blue turf? Because like I said, it's happened a couple times in the last year or so.
What are my thoughts on it? I don't have a lot of thoughts on it, Jay.
All right.
I think it's cool. I do think that, but I don't think about it a whole lot, to be honest.
Yeah, just they obviously feel like it's a special place to make the next step in their lives. So either way, I appreciate it, Andy.
All right, BJ, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, Andy, I was talking to a couple of players last week about you guys switching from the Monday off day to Sunday off day, where you guys are practicing on Mondays now, which previously was flipped. Was that something you got at Oregon, and what do you see as the benefits of giving the players Sunday off and kind of switching the schedule up there?
No, that wasn't something we got at Oregon. It was a collective agreement upon the coaching staff and different things that we've done to be able to be more efficient, especially coming out of games and being able to evaluate the things that we need to do better, give the student athletes an opportunity to have a day where they can still come in and get treatment and get what they need here at the facility. The facility is still open, which a lot of them still come here on Sundays and do what they need to do, whether it be with the training staff. Academically, we still have things going on Sundays. But to be able to give the players an opportunity to handle what they need to handle to get their weeks in order. And then, the benefit of working on Monday is that you have more prepared for the week ahead. You can do more with the players because they're not as sore coming off of the day immediately following the game.
Jay, for a follow-up.
Yeah. Andy, every time we bring up Alex Tubner, you usually can't help but smile. And you're doing it again now.
I was already smiling before because I'm just wondering what you're going to ask this time. You just asked about rings and engagement parties.
I mean,
did you get invited to those engagement parties? Did you get it?
I guess I'm still waiting.
You're working hard for an invite right now.
Right? Yeah. But when it comes to him, what is it about him? I mean, you really do seem to light up when you talk about Alex Tubner and what he brings to the table. And he stepped in for one of your best defensive players and I mean, didn't miss a beat for the most part. And I might be pushing this too far, but does he remind you of yourself in any way? Like maybe a little undersized?
He's way smarter than me, and he is way better of a football player. So you know what? He's just always ready. He's always ready, whether it's on special teams and he needs to jump in there and play wherever. And that's how Tube has gained his respect of the team and the players. He's very diligent in everything he does, whether that's school, off the field. Again, he earned the right to have the position on defense that he does because of what he did on special teams, and he owned his role and he got better at it. And anything that needs to be done, the guy handles it. And that's what you call dependable depth. When it's a guy's turn to step up and he handles it, that just shows what type of person he is.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, BJ said he had one more, so last one.
I know you talked after the game about Tyneil Hopper, Andy, but just in general, I know the tight end position gets a ton of attention at Boise State, but to see Tyneil's development, I know you obviously weren't here the last 2 years, but if he can become a legitimate option moving forward in the passing game, what can Tyneil bring to the team, and what have you seen from him this year?
Yeah, so there's no question. I mean, not only Tyneil, but some of those other tight ends and being able to get them some more targets as more people on offense, other personnel on offense get more attention, right? Creates one-on-one matchups for those guys. And not only has Tyneil been really efficient in the run game, but he has proven that he can do it in the pass game as well. And that's exciting. A guy that, like we spoke about after the game, I mean, you talk about a guy that will do whatever he needs to do for the team and loves his role, whether that's on special teams or on offense, and is always dialed and ready to go with what his responsibilities are. And when his opportunities have come this year, when he's gotten targeted, he's made the most of it. So I think you're right, BJ. I mean, it's awesome, and we got to keep growing that forward. The more guys that have the confidence to be productive that way, we got to keep targeting them.
And I apologize, I missed that John Mallory had one too. So one more from John.
What's up, John?
I'll stay with the tight end, but let's talk about McBride. And right. I mean, obviously you guys held him to his most inefficient half he's had this season with essentially just one catch up until the final one time down. It didn't
seem that way, John. I'll tell you what, it didn't seem that way at all. The guy's a stud. He's a good player, obviously he was very productive in the first half, and there were some certain things that we had to adjust and make happen in the second half, and between the quarterback scrambling around and his explosive pass plays, we had to do something about that at halftime. And we really started through the middle of the second quarter there. And we got to start faster with that, John, right? We got to be able to eliminate some of those opportunities he had, but he's a hell of a player now. He made, at times we were covering him and he still made some unbelievable catches. And that's what we do. You got to keep competing. And the guys did.
Thanks.
All right, Andy, appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
All right, guys, have a good week. We'll see y'all.
Recording stopped.